Welcome to the Intimate Marriage Podcast, where I teach educated, successful couples how to have incredible, passionate relationships so that you can stop compromising and start feeling fully alive in your relationship. I'm Alexandra Stockwell, aka the Intimacy Doctor. I'm a physician, a relationship and intimacy coach, and I'm an intimate marriage expert. My husband and I have been married for 26 years. We have 4 children and full professional lives, and we've created an amazing marriage. I've shown hundreds of couples how to do so as well. So if you want to deepen your understanding of your own relationship and learn to access new heights of emotional, sensual, and erotic intimacy, you're in the right place. I will show you how. Now, let's dive in. If this is the first episode of the Intimate Marriage Podcast that you're listening to, or you're a relatively new listener, welcome. I'm Alexandra Stockwell, and I'm so glad you're joining my community and listening to the podcast. I truly hope that it speaks to you and inspires you. If you're someone who's been listening for a long time, maybe you've already heard every episode before this one. Well, then the name and topic for this podcast is going to sound familiar, because episode 16 used to be called When Your Partner Isn't Into Personal Growth. That's right, it's one of the earliest episodes I recorded and used to be one of the most frequently listened to. It's also in the top episodes that I end up referring people to because it shares something that they need to hear. However, for reasons I don't understand, the audio for that podcast just evaporated on the internet ethers. My editor can't find it. I can't find it. It just is gone. And because this is such an important topic, I'm recording a new episode for you. So when your partner isn't into personal growth, there are so many things at play. First of all, as a human being, it is easier to see our partner's shortcomings than our own. It's very rare when I first meet a couple that they're not each clear on how the other one should change in order to improve the relationship. They may also be clear how they themselves should change, but they're pretty much always clear how their partner should change. Should be more kind, should be more present, should be more loving, should be more interested in personal growth, should be gentler with the children, whatever it is. If you're in a relationship, you probably right off the bat can think of some ways for your partner to grow and change. And when our partner isn't into personal growth, the desire for them to change can really be painful and feel like if you keep growing, if you keep learning things and expanding who you are and being more present, opening your heart more, that you're going to outgrow your partner. And so most couples face individuals with a partner where it's what I'm describing is what's happening. It can be really, really challenging because you're somebody who wants to grow and up-level and really focus on your personal growth. But it's so confronting if doing that is going to cost you your relationship or cost you happiness in your relationship because you're concerned you're going to outgrow your partner or you already have. Okay, so sometimes that's true, but way, way, way less often than people think it is. So let me tell you a few stories. I want to tell you about a client of mine who had been with her partner. I think they'd been married about 5 years, and she traveled for work a lot. And whenever she traveled, she always yearned to connect by phone, by text, by video call, to stay in contact while she was traveling. But her guy just wasn't interested and didn't seem to even notice that they weren't in communication when she traveled. But it was something that was a source of great frustration for her. And she thought the only way that this could improve is if he made a point of working on himself, on growing and expanding and improving, such that he showed up for her in the way that she was yearning for. I have another client that I coached, and his partner speaks multiple languages, but none of them English or any other language that I know. It's not actually possible for me to coach her. So I coach him, and he does incredible work, feeling frustrated that she's not interested in personal growth. He still wanted to work, to coach with me, to figure out what he could do to enjoy his relationship more. I'm going to circle back with what happened with this woman whose partner, a man, wasn't into personal growth, and this man whose female partner wasn't into personal growth. But let me lay out the landscape a little bit first. The first problem that most people make is believing that personal growth has to look a particular way, that it has to look the way that it looks for you. So if you found your way into personal growth because you took a yoga class and now you do yoga every morning and you meditate, then typically you think your partner needs to do yoga and meditate too in order for their personal growth trajectory to pick up. Or if you're totally into Tony Robbins events and all the intense energy and the compressed just the intensity that leads to transformation, if that is how you like your personal growth, then you're going to think there's something wrong with your partner if they're not into Tony Robbins events also and have no interest. Or maybe you read books, like you get the idea. There's so many ways to pursue personal growth. And when one person feels their partner is not into personal growth, very often one of the issues is that original partner with the judgment and the criticism, he or she expects the personal growth to look the same way that it does for you. And that's just not how it works. Maybe your partner goes fishing and communes with nature and doesn't talk at all. And the personal growth is not verbal. There's not a whole lot to report about the insights and breakthroughs when he gets back from his fishing expedition. But that truly is how he becomes more acquainted with his internal world and recalibrates and aligns with his priorities and values, which is what personal growth is about. Or maybe your partner does her personal growth through pushing herself as an athlete, climbing harder and harder rock faces, or running, I was going to say running marathons, but let's say doing triathlons. Like maybe that is how she does her personal growth. So that really is the first thing I want to say, that personal growth looks different for everybody. And the sooner that you release your fixed attachment to what it needs to look like for your partner, the more free they're going to be to pursue their personal growth and have you see it and experience it and appreciate it. Now, the second idea that I want to convey, the second principle, is that when it comes to personal growth, with a partner who's resistant or not so responsive to how you want to do things, far and away the most important thing is for you to show, don't tell. So if you listen to one of the interviews, it's one of the very earliest ones on the podcast that I did with Melanie Ann Lair and Kevin Scott. She describes how she was going to all these Tony Robbins events and she never once tried to get him to go. She never once told him what was happening at the event. She never kind of pushed it or nagged him about it at all. She didn't even discuss it, but she implemented and integrated what she was learning. And so even though initially Kevin, who now is totally devoted to personal growth and is an amazing coach, even though when they first got together, he just thought the whole thing was fluff and just a scam and unimportant, because he experienced the way that she was changing, growing, and evolving, he ended up saying to her, I think I'd like to go to one of Tony Weekend's events the next time you go. I'd like to go with you. It's not just that she didn't ask. She genuinely never had the agenda that he come with her because Melanie had enough going on to focus on her own growth. But the natural thing that happened is that he then became interested. I want to tell you that I used to have a lot of women reach out to me saying they'd love to become my client. They'd love to do couples coaching with me, but their husband really just wasn't interested. And I used to always say, just invite him to have a 15-minute call with me. Doesn't need to sign up for coaching. Just the only commitment is to have a 15-minute call with me and see if he's interested. And there are some of the husbands who just were not interested in that call. But literally 100% of the time that the men got on the phone with me for 15 minutes, they were absolutely interested in hearing more and talking about couples coaching together. Because when they spoke with me, they realized it's not that I'm taking her side. It's not that she has the singular recipe for personal growth. It's that when I would speak with him, he would feel respected and like his perspective mattered. And as soon as he would feel that way, he was available to explore further because he also wanted the relationship to get better. I can't tell you how many women have been surprised after that 15-minute call when their husbands are like, okay, let's schedule a longer conversation and talk about how this would work. Now, let me go back to the woman and the man that I spoke about at the beginning of this episode. First of all, with her, I'm going to call her Gina right now. With Gina, I coached her to take her attention off of her husband not contacting her, not texting or calling or in any way being verbally affectionate when she traveled. And instead, I coached Gina to put her attention on her own pleasure, to feel good in her own skin, to dance, to order things on the menu that really delighted her, to move a little bit more slowly as she got out of bed and ended her day of work when she transitioned into getting into bed in the hotel room. I basically coached her to enjoy herself to such an extent that she was no longer focused on how he wasn't reaching out to her. And after doing this literally for just 2 weeks, she messaged me in shock that her husband had reached out and said, hey, let's have a video call. And they'd gotten on a call and talked for an hour, and he asked her about her experience traveling. He didn't know how much attention she was putting on handling her own feelings and feeling good. He knew none of that, but he certainly responded to it. She felt like, oh my gosh, he's capable of so much more than I ever realized. And Gina realized that she wasn't going to see it if she was nagging him or feeling badly about his not doing it. But as soon as she pivoted to take responsibility for her own experience and pleasure and loveliness, well, suddenly he was responding in a whole other way. And then my male client, whose wife doesn't speak English, one of the biggest issues is that he wanted her to be affectionate, to express love, to be more loving, to have a more loving tone. And I coached him to actually evoke the experience of feeling loved, which did not come easily to him. But the point is that he was wanting her to change so he felt loved, and I put my attention on coaching him to every day close his eyes and evoke the feeling of being loved, of letting go of his armoring and the guarding of his heart and just feeling loved. Just with his eyes closed, visualizing it, allowing the feelings to permeate his soul and his body. And what do you know? Before long, he shared with me that she was being more loving. And what was the most important thing is that when he was with her, he felt loved. Now, did she change? Was she more loving? I actually have no idea because I've never had a conversation with her. I don't speak her language. She doesn't speak mine. But I do know that when he took his attention off of all the ways that she needed to change and instead put his attention on accessing the feeling he was yearning for, there was suddenly a lot more connection and easier love flowing between the two of them. So, is it exciting and wonderful when you can take your partner's hand and the two of you walk towards your personal growth adventures together? Yes, that is amazing. And when it feels like your partner isn't into personal growth, is there a lot you can do? Yes, there definitely is. The one thing is to really understand that personal growth looks different for each person. And the second is show, don't tell. Be the more personally evolved person and see what changes when you are. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend, and please leave a rating and a review. And if you're ready to deepen your relationship and create a truly intimate, delicious, and vibrant marriage, head over to the Work With Me page at alexandrastockwell.com and choose the program that's right for you.